So the first talk is by Kamel Elsaadany from Gulf University for Science and Technology. The title of his talk is Analyzing Resumptive Pronouns in LFG-glue Semantics.
This one. Do you have the pointer?
Yes.
There you go for the screen. Welcome everybody. So I think I forget, should be analyzing. So before I change it, analyzing resumptive pronouns and LFG semantics. Is it working?
It should be working. Yeah, if you just talk.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm very happy to be with you at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign now for 15 years. I left the campus. I graduated in 1999, so I'm very happy today to present one of the papers that I'm still writing now. And the paper will talk about resumptive pronouns in LFG-glue semantics. And this paper tries to answer the following questions. The first one will be a traditional one. What is syntactic and semantic definition of resumption? Because we will see from the definitions actually the suggested theory that will account for resumptive pronouns will be solved. And why is the LFG-glue framework used in analyzing resumptive pronouns? Next one, why are only referentially dependent elements such as pronouns used for expressing resumption? And what are the distribution of filler resumption construction and filler gap constructions? What are the similarities and differences between filler resumption construction and filler gap constructions along distance dependency? And in the end, is there a unified theory of resumption that will actually account for all these differing views about the resumption and its phenomena? Oops, I'm sorry. Okay, I don't know what to do. Here you go. Here you go. So what's the definition? I will go very quickly because it's a long talk, by the way. So I will try to make it, at least you get the flavor of the phenomena, and I will move up to that. And most of my talk will be also related to the Arabic examples and all these. So I hope that you will get some benefit from that. So a resumptive pronoun, RP, is defined as a pronoun that occupies the foot of an unbounded dependency and is interpreted as a bound variable. So this is a basic one. And McCloskey in 2007, page 94, defines it as follows, quote, a pronominal element which is obligatory bound and which appears in a position in which under other circumstances a gap would appear. The binder of the pronoun is the same, apparently, as the element which binds the gap in the corresponding filler gap construction. Here, as you can see, it's a major phrase here, pronominal element. So as we will see, actually, we will talk about pronominal element as a representative of the resumptive pronouns. That's even from the name. Here, from this particular definition, he added a very clear definition of resumptive pronouns, and he said that the nature of RPs by considering them as ordinary pronouns. And of course, this has a lot of implication of what I'm going to say, because so far the literature, they do not consider them as ordinary pronouns. And he provided this or this generalization on which also the theory suggested will be based on. Here, quote, a remarkable but little commented on property of resumptive pronouns is that they simply are pronouns. I know of no report a language that uses morphologically or lexically distinct series of pronouns in the resumptive function. If we take this observation to be revealing, there can be or there cannot be syntactic feature which distinguishes resumptive pronouns from ordinary pronouns. And any appeal to such feature must be construed as, at best, an indication of the limits of understanding. So basically, it is an ordinary pronoun. Here, if we are going to have it is an ordinary pronoun, then we have some generalization that also will come from that definition. So here, he said that one of the generalization of McCluskey's, the identification of RPs is that there can be no underlying lexical, featural difference between an RP in a language that licenses it and the corresponding referential or bound pronoun. That's the first generalization, and we will come back to that later. The second generalization of such a resumptive identification is that there can be no difference in syntactic insertions or composition between an RP in a language that licenses it and the corresponding referential or bound pronoun that we talked about in the previous slide. So these generalizations have some implication on any syntactic theory that treats resumption either as ordinary or special pronouns. From that particular one, then we can have two options here in order to account for resumptive pronouns. The first option, and also this is suggested by Asudas 2007, we might have an ordinary pronoun theory of resumption, and as you can see here, there is no any lexical, featural, syntactic differences between resumptive pronouns and referential or bound pronouns. The second one, or the second option, is special pronoun theory of resumption by itself. And here it proposes the distinction between RPs and other pronouns. Here, if we are going to get this option, there is some lexical, featural, syntactic difference between resumptive pronouns and referential or bound pronouns. Here, we will adopt the second option, and we will also build this particular theory about ordinary pronouns as we just said. Here, if we are going to say that, then what are the different types of resumptive pronouns that we might have? Here we have certain classes also that McCluskey defines. Number one, it is a base-generated resumptions, and he provided this from Irish. As you can see, you know, I don't claim that I can read Irish, but that's again a basic one, and I highlighted the resumptive itself here on red. So that's the first type. The second type is movement resumptives, and again, those who are really familiar with the LFG, we do not really talk anything about movements and all these. So it's just we put it because he put it this way, and exemplified by this example again from, I guess, Wada. The third class is processor resumptives, and this is outside the realm of grammar. And the closest thing for this, I think, as Sells called that, the intrusive pronouns, which is not actually grammatical. So we're not going to pay a lot to this particular category. From these three major categories, particularly the last one, then we can have subcategories for the resumptive pronouns. The first subcategory is the island ACP representatives, and this will include examples like that. This is the girl that Peter said that John thinks that yesterday his mother had given some cakes to her, and again I highlighted that. So that's one of the subcategories. Oh, I read the wrong one. I'm sorry. It should be the previous one. Anyway, the second subset is the complexity resumptives, and this is illustrated in the one that I have just read to you. Here, there is a table that will actually summarize all these types, as you can see, that we will need that, or I need that later for all the different types. So here we have, oops, the class 1, class 2, and then from class 3, 3.1 and 3.2. And these all the major things that they will either agree or disagree. So class 1 is grammatical yes, 2 yes, 3.1 no, and class 3.2 also no. So this will really summarize all what we are going to look for in accounting for the resumptive pronouns. Oh my goodness. I just started. Okay, so this means that I have, sorry, to go through anyway. So let's go to Arabic then. Arabic has both class 1 and class 2 resumptives, if you remember, and they, of course, they are grammatical. And based on the evidence from ILLS and reconstruction as shown in on ESAL 2001, the pronouns from the two classes are formally indistinguishable. So here we will present some accounting for these two that makes a lot of problems, by the way, for any theory of resumption that will account for these. Here, in order to do that, the theoretical background that I choose will be the LFG-glue semantics, and I put a lot of definition for such theoretical background that will depend on the resource logic or the linear logic for semantic composition, and also these have been developed by Darlampel 2001, 99, and 93. Now, for the Arabic resumptive pronouns, and that's the start for the Arabic, I have a lot to say about that. But as you can see, from these particular ones in interpretation of that particular LFG-glue semantics, we will be able to account for all these. And in the end, we will go ahead and suggest the theory that will be able to unify all these differing ideas that will account for the resumptives. So I will run. So I now, after that, I put all these points for ARPs, like means Arabic resumptive pronouns in unbounded dependencies, and I explained these by saying that in Arabic there are no restriction on which unbounded dependencies host resumptives except in the highest subject position. And here ARPs appear in restrictive and non-restrictive relative clauses, and in which constructions as well, WH construction as well. And I provided so many examples for each category here. So I provided the example here, and I highlighted that. So al-qalam alladhi saraqahu. So al-qalam and who refers back to al-qalam? Al-walad jadidun. So the pen that the boy stole is new. Another one, al-walad alladhi is what? أعطيته or أعطيته, yeah. النقود له. So who and al-walad, the boy that you gave, actually it's you gave, not I, gave the money to him in this case. So another one, non-restrictive relative clause. Again here, جاء الولد الذي, okay, الذي, أو الذكي الذي لم أراه. So أراه is in the third line here, refers to al-walad in this case. So this is non-restrictive relative clause. So here we have also the clefts. We have the reduced cleft also. So since time is very limited, I will go through all these later. Also, we have some examples in Arabic resumptives in comparatives with the connection between the antecedent and the pronoun itself. And we have also some questions that also prove the same way that I stated at the very beginning. Okay. Now, let me move to the second major point, like Arabic resumptive pronouns as a bound pronouns. Here, the second definitional characteristics of Arabic resumptive pronouns concern their semantic interpretation. And here, the definition I gave before states that RPs are interpreted as bound pronouns that should receive bound interpretation also. As you see, when we say pronouns, ordinary pronouns, and then bound pronouns and all these, there will be like some clashes and differences, and the challenge will come in the end when you are going to find theory that actually will combine all these and try to provide a logical interpretation for all these. Okay, so here the first test that they gave, actually there are 3 tests here, as you can see, based on interpreting RPs as bound. Chow, I guess, and Sells 1983 present 3 tests that distinguish RPs from what Sells called intrusive pronouns. And I will skip that because I want to go to the major point here, but that's again how you are going to distinguish between a resumptive pronoun and a bound pronoun. Okay. Here you go. So I will skip all these. Here, in Arabic and other languages that license true resumptives, pass these tests. So for the 3 tests that Chow and Sells provided, Arabic and any resumptive languages also, they will pass these tests. And here, if we have these tests passed for these languages, then the 2 definitional properties of RPs indicate that RPs occur where gaps occur in unbounded dependency. And this is a major also similarities, and later will be differences between resumptive pronouns and gaps. So we proved that and provided that. Here also in resumptive pronouns, ordered pronouns can only be used as the lower end of a long distance dependency. This is due to the referential possibilities of RPs. The essential observation is that the reference of the RP is what we would expect from an ordinary pronoun. Here RPs only allow referential readings, and this is true of pronouns in general and is shown by the following examples. So these are examples. Ahmad يبحث عن مجلة. So Ahmad is looking for a magazine. The second one, أحمد يبحث عن مجلة. وأيضا عمر يبحث عنها. So as I indicated here, the first one is ambiguous, but the second one, it is specific and existing. Like Ahmad is looking for a magazine, Omar is also looking for it, and we use the pronoun here in this example. So here, in order to do that, McCloskey again, a remarkable provided this, a remarkable but little commented on property of resumptive pronouns is that they are simply are pronouns. And I said that before at the very beginning, so I don't have to go for these. Okay. Now, based on that, then we will call that these morphological and lexical consequences of RPs are follows. Number 1, resumptive pronoun languages do not have resumptive specific morphological paradigms. So there is no specific pronouns that say, oh, these are resumptives. No. 2, resumptive pronouns languages do not have certain pronouns that are only resumptive or have a resumptive specific usage to the exclusion of other pronouns, and that goes also with what we said, they are ordinary pronouns. But from the examples, if we have time, we showed sometimes they do not actually ordinary pronouns, but again, they behave like that. Here I gave the ideas here, how they are ordinary pronouns. So many examples here. So I will skip and read very quickly, and please, I will be happy to discuss with anyone who is interested later. Okay, so these are like the resumptive and ordinary pronouns. They appear almost in the same environments without any difference between them, and this is, you know, proves the way that they are ordinary pronouns. Also, it should be you know, a picture here, and we said that. The second point, RPs versus gaps, and we said this analysis supports or is consistent with the strongest version of the extended coherence condition, which says discourse functions must be identified with argument or adjunct function. Actually, this is very, very important for the theory that is suggested here for accounting for that, because it must be licensed either in argument or in adjunct. Of course, some languages never allow these pronouns in adjunct like Chinese, for example. Okay. So I provided now for the island constraints also the coordinate structure here, the complex NP, the object of a preposition, and here the parasitic gaps. Since the doctor says stop, I will go, I'm sorry, directly for just if you can give me like 3 minutes of the discussion part, because they have to understand so they can discuss, otherwise give me some time. That's again the glue semantics that I talk about, so I will actually go skip all these. And why? Now, unified theory of resumptive pronouns. After at least you get an idea, the clash, ordinary, no, they are not ordinary. So here we said the answer to this question, can we have a unified theory of resumption? The answer to this question takes us to the previous discussion that I showed to you in the table, and a Swedish classification like class 1, 2, 3, and 3.1 and 3.2 as syntactically active resumptives, SARS, and syntactically inactive resumptives, SIRS in this case. And they are summarized also in the table too, as you can see. So these are the two types of resumption. They are both grammatically licensed, but the major problem, as you will see in the second one, reconstruction, ATB extraction, and parasitic gaps. As you can see, no, no, and the question mark, it differs from one language to another if they will allow that or not. So here they are yes, but when it comes to the CSAR, they have a major problem, and that's the real challenge for the theory. Actually, if you say they are the same, so how you are going to really account for all these differences in such cases? So here, and I will stop in 2 minutes. The difference between the SARS here and the SIRS, particularly the island and we crossover, highlight the challenge for a unified theory of resumption. That's the part that I showed to you. First, SARS do not seem to display the properties of filler gap dependencies, and SIRS or SIRS do seem to display the properties, as you can see from the yes and no and the question mark that I have just showed to you. So here goes back to McCloskey and said, look, that's why we have to solve this problem. Again, go back to principles and parameters of a Chomsky and follow the spill out of a trace, when you are going to account for all these discrepancies. Here, let me just go to this. If we are going to adopt then this particular unified theory in the LFG and glue semantics, then we should be able to answer the following questions. Number one, is there a unifying aspect to SARs and SIRS? Yes, via semantic composition. Semantic composition part of the glue semantics will be actually related to solve that particular problem. Second questions, can SIRS and their movement, again, in LFG, we never talk about movement, by the way, like properties, be reconciled with McCloskey's generalization that I have just said at the very beginning? Yes, by recognizing that it is the regular filler gap relation that needs to be adjusted to account for these resumptives rather than the pronoun itself. Number three, can the interpretation of SIRS be reconciled with their curiously gap-like syntax? The answer in the theory, yes. How? By treating these resumptives lexically as identical to other pronouns. So this resumption, of course, I gave the how you are going to go from step by steps for these. So if you allow me 1 minute, I will continue. Otherwise, I will stop. So it's only almost done. Okay. So let me just, because these are only, I guess, 2 or something. So the unified theory of resumption or resumptive pronouns should consider the SARS and SIRS to be alike, to be analyzed as lexically identical to ordinary pronouns. And this is the hypothesis and the assumption that I said it from the very beginning according to McCloskey's definition. And this conclusion is based on the following analysis. Number one, resumption is just another role that pronouns play in grammar, like referring and serving as bound variables. And of course, in the body of the presentation, I put a lot of examples that prove that. Number two, resumptive pronouns are always regular pronouns. And also, I provided the examples. I just read very few to you that they are actually used as regular pronouns also. At the syntax semantics interface, therefore, RPs always have the same possibilities of interpretation as regular pronouns, and they always have the same morphological form as regular pronouns, because some people, as we said, they said no, they are not actually ordinary pronouns. However, the relationship between the binder of the resumptive and the pronoun is modified in case of the SIRS, because they are inactive in this case. So what's the conclusion? Resumptive pronouns look like and are interpreted like ordinary pronouns because there is nothing special about resumptive pronouns. RPs are always underlying pronouns, and such unified theory of RPs is undertaken by glue. It is based on a theoretical assumption and an empirical observation which follows from the generalization made by McCloskey. And these are the two generalizations that we said before. Resource sensitivity hypothesis, natural language is resource sensitive. And the second generalization, resumptive pronouns are ordinary pronouns. Then the logic behind the theory is the following. If an RP is an ordinary pronoun, then it constitutes a surplus resource. If resource sensitivity is to be maintained, then there must be an additional consumer of the pronominal resource present. So this theory achieves a unification at the syntax semantics interface of the two different types of the resumptives that I have just illustrated. I think I will stop here. Thank you very much. And I wish I have more time so you can get the flavor. It's too difficult and complicated, by the way, and a lot of linear logic and all these. So
maybe you can talk 2 minutes about what you mean by the SIR being inactive.
So this means that they don't have these syntactic properties, and that's why I say inactive. And when they are inactive, it will actually involve the active ones. For the distribution, for the gaps, and for all the tables that the properties that I mentioned. So for the no, all these no's, this means they are inactive. And the other one will subsume the first one, the active ones. So actually, the inactive will subsume the first one. And in this case, with the slight differences, we will consider them to be just the same phenomena, with the exception of the examples and the diagnosis that I showed you in the second table in this case.
So it has nothing to do with the inherent properties.
No, it doesn't.
It has to do with
the syntactic distribution and the processes for the unbounded dependency. So that's the only thing that can be considered this way. Any other questions?
You went too fast. So this SIR thing, because it has all the properties of that, right?
Yes.
And so I guess that's why I'm calling it an inactive resumption. Are you trying to say that the difference between what's calling SAR and SIR is something that pronouns independent of glue? So the SAR is kind of like a referential use of
Yes.
SIR is the bound.
The bound, and then will they really go with?
You can have non-movement, non-filler gaps, bound variable dependencies between a pronoun and its connotation and student. And over there's no question of movement properties, right? So it can't be that it is a general property of being a bound variable that somehow is sensitive to locality. So that's what I'm saying.
I think no. I think here locality will not make a lot of sense to that, because again, if we are talking about movement, we are not talking about movement. But when McCloskey talked about that, he said like movement-like things. But in LFG, we never talk about movement. Yeah.
The point is that, look, you got this class of genuine resumptives that are like gaps, right?
Mm-hmm. They behave like, of course, yeah.
Under so-called copy theory or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, to try to explain why, let's say, the bottom
Mm-hmm.
of an event tendency
Mm-hmm.
sometimes over realized.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the points.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's why we have these discrepancies between actually they will have like some of them will be like gaps and others are not, although they are resumptive pronouns. That's why the clash, and the challenge here. So they said, no, you will never have a unification theory that will account for these would contradict things. They allow, they do not allow. They go forward, they do not go forward. So that's why with the linear logic and glue semantics, because I don't have time to actually give you, the logic behind that, so you will understand everything should be consumed and nothing is left over in the calculation and all these.
Okay. More discussion
Okay.
later.
Thank you very much. Thank you.